This is my cousin, and she'll be taping my speech for tonight. My purpose today is to persuade the audience on how spanking is not a constructive discipline method for children. And to do this, I'll present the problem of spanking and its negative effects on children. The article Physical Assault Against Children states, in America, we remain a society that believes and expects that it can somehow mysteriously and magically condemn and prevent physical assaultive behavior between family members or intimate partners when they reach adulthood, primarily through the use of a reactional criminal justice system, while continuing to use or accept the physical assaults against children. Isn't there something wrong with this logic? The logic is illogical. Spanking is not a constructive discipline method for children, and it leads to a ripple effect of negative outcomes, and it needs to stop. As all of you know in this room, spanking is something parents have used for a really long time to correct a child's behavior. But now people argue, and it's kind of a controversy on whether it's beneficial or not. So how many people in this room today think that it's okay to hit a child but not an adult? Right. And this leads me to believe that a lot of our core values do not match with this discipline method. Today I will be talking about how spanking is a physical assault against children, the negative repercussions of spanking, and how it is ineffective. First, I will talk about how spanking is a physical assault against children. Let's call it like it is. The United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child gave out information that called physical punishment legalized violence against children. We as adults do not go around physically assaulting each other to fix our behavior, and frankly, it is illegal. It is against the law. Yet we are allowed to physically assault children. It leads me to ponder, what message are we sending? What are we teaching our kids? The statement goes to show we are sending conflicting messages. There continues to be clear, thorough, and consistent research explaining why this method is not effective. According to Elizabeth Gershoff, in a series of meta-analysis, spanking was associated with increases in mental health problems in childhood and adulthood, delinquent behavior in childhood and criminal behavior in adulthood, negative parent-child relationships, and increased risk that children will be physically abused. We can stop physical assaults against children by using alternative methods and teaching parents new strategies. Graham Berman, PhD, a psychology professor and principal investigator for the Child Violence and Trauma Laboratory, says remaining calm during a child's tantrums is the best approach, coupled with timeouts when needed and a consistent discipline plan that rewards good behavior. He also states that part of the problem is good discipline isn't quick or easy. If we shift away from using spanking, it will benefit our children more. Not using spanking does not mean we are not disciplining our children. That is a huge misconception. I have discussed how spanking is a physical assault against children, so now I will show how it has negative repercussions. One of the negative repercussions spanking has is aggression. Not only does the aggression affect the child, but it also affects the parent too, as spanking can go overboard due to the parent getting very irritated and angry when disciplining the child with this technique. With children, though, from angry outbursts to physical aggression, they will start hitting their peers and other people as a result of spanking being used on them, and some even go on to hit their own parents. Aggression is increased greatly in kids whose parents choose spanking. If you think about it, we are hitting them, so it makes sense that in return they act out by doing the same. It also affects cognitive development. Cognitive development plays a big role in spanking, more than one might think. The earlier you start spanking, the more significant the adverse effects are. According to the article New Evidence for the Benefits of Never Spanking, it states the greater benefit of avoiding corporal punishment for the younger children is consistent with the research showing the most rapid growth of neural connections in the brain at early ages. It also goes to show how yelling is not an effective method either, as it implements the same kind of rage and aggression. But that is a different story for a different day. Article also states, if parents avoid corporal punishment, they are more likely to engage in verbal method of behavior control, such as explaining to the child and that the increased verbal interaction with a child will in turn enhance the child's cognitive ability. According to a SurveyMonkey that I conducted on spanking, 37% said they thought spanking had negative effects, while only 12% thought spanking could not have negative effects, and half of them were not sure. Maybe after all, people just aren't educated enough to realize the negative repercussions. The third point I want to move on to is that spanking is ineffective. It doesn't correct behavior, and it in fact worsens it. For example, I've been a nanny for many years, and I've watched a lot of kids in a lot of different families, and I noticed like a really consistent pattern that the kids that I watched whose parents didn't use spanking, they were less aggressive, and they seemed to listen more and had really good behavior, versus the ones that I watched where their parents used spanking, they were more aggressive. Same thing with, I have an example of like me and my sister, we grew up and we were spanked, however it didn't work for us. Yeah, we're still productive members of society, but our like anger has even gotten worse as adults, and I just don't think spanking did anything for us. I want to talk also about the long versus short-term outlook. Spanking may cut out behavior immediately for some children, but it doesn't work long-term, and that's just because we're not teaching them the tools that they need to fix their behavior. All we're doing is enforcing physical violence and threats. According to the article Physical Assaults Against Children, it states many, if not most, Americans also seem unwilling or unable to understand or accept the logic that hitting children to teach them the lesson that hitting another person is wrong behavior. So what are we doing? Obviously the discipline technique we're using with spanking is not right for sure. By what I've discussed in this speech, with spanking being a physical assault against children, the negative repercussions, and how it is ineffective, we should now all collaboratively have a better understanding of why we should no longer use spanking as a discipline method. I hope eventually the world will no longer accept the use of corporal punishment on children, just as we don't accept it for adults. Spanking is not a constructive discipline method and is leading us as a society down a destructive path. Our children deserve better. Let's change this. Thank you.